In the last couple of films that Jessica Lange has appeared in, we could see in her performances those qualities usually attributed to an exceptional actress. And now with her remarkable performance in the film version of actress Frances Farmer, Lange has come of age. The film belongs to her. She dominates the screen. The other actors and actresses involved are fine, but Lange's performance carries the film. Its 2-hour and 20-minute length can be felt at times, and if Lange's showing had not been as high a quality and caliber that it was, then the movie would have suffered. Frances Farmer's rise to fame was quick. It was the late 1930s. The great director Howard Hawks is quoted as saying, "I think she had more talent than anyone I ever worked with." Frances Farmer's life always seemed to be surrounded with some sort of controversy. In Seattle, Washington, when she was 16 years old, she won a national essay contest with an essay questioning God. Later, she made a trip to Moscow, which outraged many conservatives, and all of this publicity helped launch her career as a successful Broadway and film actress. Frances Farmer had talent, lots of it, no one denies that. But yet, as a person who had everything, her life in later years was nothing but tragedy. She was betrayed by her lover and was subjected to the utmost form of cruelty from her mother, who was jealous, domineering, possessive, and publicity obsessed. The mother wanted Frances to succeed so badly that she would do just about anything to Frances, especially when she finally decided she didn't want any more of the Hollywood system. Other problems Frances had were a gutless father. She had a problem with alcohol and drugs. She was subjected to ghastly stays in mental hospitals, insulin and shock treatments, gang rape as a patient, and allegedly Frances was given a transorbital lobotomy by a butcher of a doctor. After viewing Frances Farmer's life in the movie, I can't help but admit that in some instances it seemed as if she brought a lot of the troubles on herself. One of her biggest problems appeared to be her inability to compromise on anything. And this is not to say a person should be punished because they are individualistic. The film at times makes you feel outraged and angry. A question I kept asking myself is why those things happened to her. Her mother was the cause of a lot of it, but you can't help but wonder why Frances let some things literally destroy her. Now here in this scene is another confrontation between Frances and her parents.
You listen. Now you can send me away, and you can pretend I'm crazy, and you can pretend I am still your little girl who can't take care of herself. But Lillian, there is one thing that you cannot pretend anymore, and that is that I love you, because I don't. I can't. Not after what you've done to me. See, because I am still me. I've been trying real hard all this time to be me. And you, little sister, haven't been any help at all.
Packed with lots of emotional action, director Graham Clifford fails in giving the picture any flow. He doesn't seem to offer us, the audience, any understanding of Frances Farmer's true character. Although that fault can almost be considered an advantage in that it makes us want to know more about her. Kim Stanley, Frances's mother, is very good. Sam Shepard, as a fictional character added just for the film, is fair. But as Frances' fictional lover, their relationship is never fully explained. On my rating scale, I'm giving Frances an 8. The reason for such a high rating is due mainly to Jessica Lange's performance. The film was rough to watch, but it's never boring. Lange's performance is daring and provocative, and you can tell Lange at least tries to help everyone understand the misunderstood, mysterious, and victimized life of Frances Farmer. I'm Dino Lawley. In case you missed The Road Warrior when it was originally released, you've now got a second chance. Road Warrior is a sequel of sorts to a film called Mad Max, which didn't get a lot of attention here in the United States. In Australia, it was a big hit. In Road Warrior, Mel Gibson stars as Max. Now, the film opens with him and his dog looking for fuel. The film's setting is after a gigantic war. A nuclear holocaust has almost left a shambles of towns and people. It appears the only reason for being is to roam the highways in search of food and fuel. Meanwhile, there's a group of survivors who are guarding an oil refinery. They live in the outpost, which comes under numerous attacks from a despicable group of thugs led by the Humongous. The group in the outpost talk Max into helping them. They feel the only way to survive is to escape to some land by the sea. Max has for help Bruce Spence as a gyrocopter pilot who uses snakes for bombs. Max is at first reluctant to help the outpost group, but after Humongous and his horrible herd kill his dog, wreck his car, and do some heavy-duty smashing on his head, Max agrees to drive the big fuel tank truck. As you can see, some of the stunts are quite spectacular. The Road Warrior is loaded with action-packed chase sequences. Everything is very realistic and impressive. Director and co-writer George Miller has done a superb job of keeping everything in line. On my rating scale, The Road Warrior rates a 7. Now, this is a violent movie, so be aware. It does leave its impact on the audience. The world created in the movie is a strange one. There is not a dividing line between the good and bad guys. Some are just less bad than others. Max is almost a futuristic gunfighter derived from an old Western. He's got his best friend, a dog by his side, as they roam the highways. Road Warrior is now in re-release. It is violent, it's rated R, but it contains well-executed stunts and chases, and yet is pure entertainment. I'm Dino Lawley. Walt Disney, yes, Walt Disney is the force behind the movie Trenchcoat. Now, this film is not a typical Walt Disney endeavor, but I've got to give them credit for trying something different. Although most of the gags in Trenchcoat don't work, it's basically another one of those cute movies that supplies a few laughs and makes for a pleasurable evening. Trenchcoat stars pretty Margot Kidder. She plays an amateur mystery writer, and she goes to the island of Malta to work on her mystery novel. And through a series of sometimes disjointed and semi-funny and at times confusing mishaps, she becomes involved in a conspiracy that slowly unravels.
Don't scream. Que guapa. You're much prettier than your passport picture. Not too pretty, perhaps. Where is it?
That conspiracy and her mishaps entail murder, kidnapping, and some flaky characters. Kidder is kidnapped by some unfriendly Arabs. She is suspected of murder herself by a Malta police inspector, David Suchet. She meets an elderly Irish couple, P.G. Stevens and Pauline Delaney. Ronald Lacey is a nightclub dancer. A sexy lady, Gilda von Wittershausen, and John Justin are also added in the intrigue. And last but certainly not least, Kidder comes in contact with Robert Hayes, who has an assortment of jobs. Now, of course, all the things that happen to Kidder go into her book later on. Now, without going into detail, I will just say Trenchcoat has its moments. Some are funny, others don't quite make it. The same goes for the acting. Kidder and Hayes, as well as most of the supporting cast members, are sufficient in supplying some laughs. Michael Tuckner's direction is sometimes illogical and the flow of things uneven. On my rating scale, Trenchcoat is going to get a 5. It's an average movie that could have been better, but it also could have been a lot worse. But as it stands now, it's a cute mystery movie that really doesn't have all that much to hide. I'm Dino Lawley. Pick the Flicks is going to be a little different tonight in that I'm only recommending one film to see out of the newer ones that are playing right now.
Do it! Do it! Do it! Do it!
All right, I'm doing it. Don't get excited. Now, week after week, I usually will mention some established films to see, such as Gandhi, Tootsie, 48 Hours, and The Man from Snowy River. The Verdict is still playing in a few places. That's a good movie. But tonight, I want to tell you about High Road to China. It stars television's heartthrob Tom Selleck as a down-and-out ex-flying ace hired by feisty Bess Armstrong to help her find her father.
I want the truth.
You're going to get it. High Road to China is an adventure story that gets lost along the way. The film has some high points, but what could have been a hilarious, fun, action-adventure story turns out to be an incredibly mediocre experience with very little danger or humor. At fault are the script and the directing. The aerial flying sequences, though, are very well done, but they're not enough that make up for the rest of the bad moments. Tom Selleck, I think, did a good job. He has the talent, there's no doubt about that. He just didn't have any good material to work with. Bess Armstrong is just all right in her role. Jack Weston, as Selleck's sidekick, provides most of the film's humor. Okay, Tom, I said you were good. Now, on my rating scale, High Road to China rates a 6. It's an above-average film that could have been better. Now, there are 6 new films opening this weekend. They are Table for Five, starring John Voight, Max Dugan Returns, starring Marcia Mason, C. Thomas Howell and Matt Dillon starring a film shot in Tulsa and based on Tulsa native Susan Hinton's book called The Outsiders. Spring Break is playing, yeah, Tough Enough, and Eddie Macon's Run, starring Kirk Douglas, will also be opening. And that's it for now. As soon as I see those films, I'll be back to tell you if they're worth picking. I'm Dino Lawley.
Somebody tell me what the hell is going on!
Hold on a minute, I'm going to tell you. Now, you probably heard a lot of talk comparing High Road to China to Raiders of the Lost Ark. At first, it's easy to compare the two. Both are adventure films, and Tom Selleck was the first choice to play the part of Indiana Jones in Raiders. But the fact of the matter is, the overall project for High Road to China, meaning the script, was around long before Raiders. So High Road is not a ripoff of the smash hit Raiders of the Lost Ark. Now about the movie itself. High Road to China is set in 1920 Istanbul. Bess Armstrong plays a sassy, spry, and spoiled rich flapper. She has not seen her father, played by Wilford Brimley, in 5 years. And all of a sudden it is decided that if he doesn't show up in 3 days, his company and its profits will be inherited by his crooked business partner, and not his daughter. She will get nothing. So, pressed for time, she hires a craggy, boozing pilot, Tom Selleck, to help her find her father. The relationship doesn't get off to a good start, and even throughout the entire film, knowing a romance is inevitable, the chemistry simply is not there. Plus, the whole relationship is very predictable. Anyway, she hires Selleck and his sidekick assistant, Jack Weston, to fly to Afghanistan, where her father might be living. They encounter some obstacles, one of which is a primitive tribe headed by Brian Blessed. At one point, when Selleck is about to quit and go home, his plane is blown up by some assassins. Then he comes to realize that Bess Armstrong is being followed by some unfriendly people who wants them all dead. Selleck is upset because she failed to tell him this earlier.
Look at my plane!
Well, I'm sorry. I never thought it would go this far.
Oh, that's a hot one. You never thought of anyone else but yourself in your entire life. You're nothing but a spoiled, snooty, rich little brat.
I'll buy you another plane.
You're damn right you will. And that's over and above the 100,000.
Does that mean you're still going?
Yeah, that's right. I'm still going, but I'm going solo.
Oh, no! No! I will not give you 1 penny unless I go too!
That's not part of the deal.
Go sue me!
I don't have to sue you. I'll wring your scrawny
Oh,
little
yeah,
neck.
go on, do it! Do it, do it, do it!
Cheer up, Tom. You're not that bad in the film. I think given the material you had to work with, you did a pretty fine job.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Me and Tom just like that. Selleck fits the part well, and given a better script and better direction, he could have been great. Bess Armstrong seems to do a lot of yelling in her role. I know her character is high-spirited and spunky, but she overdid it just a bit. Jack Weston provides a lot of the funnier moments. On my rating scale, High Road to China soars up to a 6. It's an above-average adventure story that could have been better. The two biggest problems in the movie are the script and the direction. The script is loaded with weak humor, cliches, and Brian Hutton's directing is bland, details are overlooked, and the pacing is disjointed. But the flying sequences are very well done, and they highlight the entire film. High Road to China had the potential, but they never developed it. Now, a lot of people have been talking about how much Tom Selleck and I look alike. Isn't that right, Tom?
Uh-uh.
Guess who I am? Okay, guess. Come on. Guess! Come on.
Howie Mandel is a stand-up comic from Canada.
No, it's me, Howie!
And as many comics hope for, Howie has recently landed a dramatic role.
Speed. Mark. Background action. And action. Hey. Hello? What's his first name?
Edward.
Edward?
Howie portrays Dr. Wayne Fiscus on the NBC dramatic series St. Elsewhere.
Yeah.
This is exciting for me. This is the most exciting time in my life, just being part of this. Plus, I'm learning. I wanted to be a doctor.
Get out from me!
Whoa! Oh!
You know, I don't normally do this, but if you twist my arm, I'll let you stay here and take care of me.
Set in a Boston hospital, St. Elsewhere is the latest offering from MTM Enterprises, the production company known for programs such as The Mary Tyler Moore Show, The White Shadow, and Hill Street Blues. MTM is also the company that spotted Howie's dramatic potential.
You know, being in a hospital show, you gotta learn how to put on surgical gloves and stuff, right? So try this when you get home.
Producer Mark Tinker.
He just was the best as far as we could see for the part. He's a schizophrenic guy, let's face it. I mean, he's ever seen his act. And you get him in here and he's a real person. So I admire his ability to turn one on and turn one off. It's quite a sickness.
In my act, I talk because I have to talk. Here, I talk because somebody's asked me something or because I want somebody else to do something. So I'm learning acting.
I'm gonna have to, you have blood compressing your heart. I'm gonna have to open it up, stick a pin in it, and then I'm gonna do something.
It's right here. You figure out what are you going to do. Parker?
My parents think I'm a doctor. They don't know this is a show. They think this is a documentary. So I said, watch me this week. They think they're just filming me because I'm a good doctor.
Howie Mandel's medical career may be cut short if the show's ratings don't improve, but Howie has a prescription that may continue his internship.
I don't know exactly what the ratings are. I don't really follow it. I really concern myself with the work that I do, you know. But I'm sure if they would cast one member of every Nilsson family in an episode, that might help.
Tomorrow we'll look at medical realism on the set of St. Elsewhere. I'm Dino.
All right, come on, move out of the way, please. We got a full arrest here. Come on.
A few seconds can mean the difference between life and death in a medical emergency.
Easy now, easy on his head.
But this heart attack will happen over and over until they get it right.
Number 8, ET tube, and a curved blade. That's good. Print that.
This isn't a hospital. It's a Hollywood set for the NBC dramatic series St. Elsewhere. St. Elsewhere is the newest show from the producers of Hill Street Blues, MTM Enterprises, a company that specializes in real situations, real characters, and realism.
You're going to plug his nose and you're going to go 4 quick breaths. Then you're going to start CPR.
Making sure that the show's medical procedures are technically correct is the job of Marilyn Bradfield, who in real life is an emergency room nurse.
The bicarb, you shoot right down in here. You just shoot it. The syringe, you just load it with bicarb. It goes into the nose, and they have to swallow water while they're getting it because they swallow it down.
Action.
As the show is filmed, Marilyn works with the actors to make sure they understand what actual doctors and nurses would do. But her teaching role isn't confined to the soundstage.
I have also gone to the homes of the actresses who've been hired for like the next day, who have no idea what they're going to do, and I've spent 2 and 3 hours at their home the night before. Then you'll take your stethoscope. You'll inject 50 cc's of air into the tubing, and you'll listen right into the stomach.
Marilyn uses books and videotapes to demonstrate, and with the actors has attended real operations at the UCLA Medical Center.
Ed Begley came to me yesterday, and he said after seeing the videos, it really helped him understand, probably for the first time, being in the operating room. And yeah, they really do understand, and they really try to be authentic in it. This guy's going to be too noisy to have him swallow water, so he's just going to have to suffer cold turkey. I enjoy doing the show so much that I will be really disappointed if the show's not picked up, because it's a lot of creativity, which I don't get to do at my job.
Tomorrow we'll look at ratings versus quality on St. Elsewhere. I'm Dino.
Oh, Denver, 1.
Hey.
Mark?
And action.
Welcome to the emergency room at Boston's St. Eligius Hospital, better known as St. Elsewhere. The TV series has been praised by critics for the high quality of its stories, acting, and realistic setting. To achieve that realism, an extraordinary set was constructed at studios in Hollywood. According to executive producer and director Bruce Paltrow, it's one of the most elaborate sets ever built for a series.
I mean, this really is a hospital complex. Down this corridor behind me is the emergency room, and down another corridor that way is OR and the morgue, and we have offices and patients' rooms and wards and ICU, and it's a rather remarkable complex.
But even with excellent reviews, top-notch writing and acting, and a $400,000 set, St. Elsewhere still faces the possibility of cancellation by the network because of poor ratings.
It's conversely proportional. I mean, I feel it better. I keep thinking we make better and better shows, and we keep making better and better shows, which are continually lower and lower rated. I don't know what to say about it. I feel very badly about it. I think that there are people out there that given the opportunity to see the show, if they knew it existed, I think would really enjoy the program.
MTM Productions, the producer of St. Elsewhere, is no stranger to hit television series, having created programs like The Mary Tyler Moore Show, The White Shadow, and Hill Street Blues. In fact, St. Elsewhere might be looked upon as a sort of companion piece to Hill Street Blues with its large cast and multi-layered storylines.
In an ensemble, we have to do storylines that all have to interweave with one another, and we have to maintain in Act 1, we start in Act 1, we may drop in Act 2. We have to maintain narrative threads. The disadvantages of doing a program that has a large ensemble cast with multiple storylines is incredibly difficult to do. I mean, it's like juggling 7 balls and 2 chickens at the same time.
Whether Paltrow and company can continue juggling balls and chickens come next season is a question NBC will decide very soon. Until then, they can only hope that the public tunes in Tuesday nights before it's too late.
The audience that watches 60 Minutes, if they were watching St. Elsewhere, I think they would be captivated by it. But I can't attract them to look at it the first time. I mean, it's very frustrating.
The scenes that have appeared in the stories I've been showing you the past few days will air on the St. Elsewhere episode on Tuesday, April the 5th at 9 p.m. right here on Channel 4. I'm Dino Lawley.
Okay, you butter. I grab him up here. Hey, my hair. Hey, my hair. Tell me if I'm pulling too hard. No, this is no.
I'm certainly glad I've got some new films to choose from for Pick the Flicks. I guess you could say that for a while we had some pretty slim pickings. Yeah. For this weekend, I can recommend Max Dugan Returns, a Neil Simon comedy about an ex-con with a heart condition, Jason Robards, who wants to spend his last few months alive with his daughter and grandson. Now, he hasn't seen his daughter, Marcia Mason, since she was 9 years old when he walked out on her and her mother. Now he wants to make up for lost time. Max Dugan Returns is an enjoyable and likable film that's rated PG, and I give it a 7. Another film rating a 7 is Francis Ford Coppola's screen adaptation of S.E. Hinton's best-selling novel, The Outsiders. It's the story about troubled teenagers in 1966 Tulsa. It's a sensitive film, well-made, well-acted, and impressive. There are some minor flaws, but the performances are good. It's rated PG. The Black Stallion Returns proves once again that some movie sequels can work. This is a wonderful family picture that has a slow start, but when the action picks up, you'll not be distracted. There's humor, drama, and feeling in the movie. It's a grand adventure that's rated PG, and I give it an 8 to prove that good family pictures can still work. Other films for consideration are High Road to China, Table for Five, and Tough Enough. All three work, but a lot of problems hold them back. They are the kind of movies that they're good in parts and not so good in other parts. Now, my time is up, and I hope you have a nice movie-watching weekend and a happy Easter. I'm Dino Lawley. Francis Ford Coppola has done a good job of creating the film version of Susan Hinton's best-selling popular youth novel. As a film, The Outsiders projects a serious view of youth, and the final result says that the teenage years are not all fun and games. The main conflict in the film is between the Greasers, the group with limited education, the working class who are outcast, and the Socias, short for social. They are from the upper middle class affluent background. Now, all the action takes place in Tulsa in 1966. C. Thomas Howell plays Ponyboy Curtis, seen here lying in bed. His two older brothers are Rob Lowe in the middle and Patrick Swayze to the right. Their parents were killed in a car accident, so now the three only take care of themselves. The film starts slowly. We see Hal and his two friends, Matt Dillon and Ralph Macchio, having fun around town. They sneak into a drive-in where they meet two female Socias. One is Diane Lane. And because the Greasers are associating with the Soch girls, a confrontation later ensues between the rival gangs. That sparks the film's action. A turning point in The Outsiders is the big rumble between the Greasers and the Socias, and before that fight takes place, Tommy Howell talks with Robert Dalton, a Soch, and Dalton makes some interesting and wise observations.
And tonight, people get hurt in rooms, maybe even killed, right? You can't win. You know that, don't you? Doesn't matter if you whip us, you'll still be where you were before, at the bottom. And we'll still be the lucky ones at the top with all the breaks. Doesn't matter. Greasers will still be greasers, and Socias will still be Socias. It doesn't matter.
Later that night after the rumble, Matt Dillon takes Hal to the hospital, and on the way he expounds on his philosophy of survival to Tommy.
You're tough like me, and you don't get hurt. Watch out for yourself, and nothing can touch you, man.
The Outsiders in many ways reminded me of the film Rebel Without a Cause. Only in Coppola's film there doesn't appear to be any authority or adults as the opposition. It's the teenagers against each other, the haves and have-nots. Coppola shows us the humanity of the characters, for instance the Greasers, and we know they're basically good. Yes, they've got their problems, but they're sensitive boys fighting inside a bad environment. And here again is the reminiscence of Rebel Without a Cause. The performances, mainly from newcomers, are all quite impressive. C. Thomas Howell and Ralph Macchio superbly portray their characters. We, the audience, can easily like them. Matt Dillon does overact in many scenes, and Patrick Swayze is fine as the older brother. The Outsiders is not without flaws. Sometimes the film jumps from one crisis to another without sufficient reason. And some areas of the film do move considerably slower than others. So on my rating scale, The Outsiders rates a 7. It will remind you of the films of the 40s and 50s. The teenagers are dignified in their own ways. Technically, the film is very well done, with some shots being stunningly beautiful. The Outsiders is an impressionable movie that shows heroism and sensitivity. It's a film that definitely has something to say. I'm Dino Lolly. The best way to describe Tough Enough is to say it's a country boy version of Rocky. If you like movies with boxing action or something remotely relating to boxing, then I can see where you might like Tough Enough. Now, this movie is a copy of other films like Golden Boy and Rocky. In fact, during a training sequence, Dennis Quaid and Stan Shaw acknowledged the Rocky movie as a joke. Now see if all this sounds a little familiar, just any of it. A young man down and out who hates his current job, who is a failure as far as his true love goes, singing, becomes a boxer to help his family's financial problems, and eventually he sings his way to the top. I believe we've all heard some of these aspects before. In this case, it's Dennis Quaid as the aspiring country and western singer. We find out he's good with his fist in scenes like this. Well, I guess he hates ketchup on hamburgers. Anyway, he enters a tough man contest, barely makes it through the preliminary rounds, but does win the $5,000 first prize. And here we see Stan Shaw, who was eliminated in earlier rounds, helping Quaid in the ring.
Get off the ropes! Get off the floor! Get off the floor!
Hey, Stanley. Hey, you're right, son.
Keep your hands in his face! Keep your hands in his face! Move!
Break, go to your corner.
I want you to keep that right hand in his face. I want you to jab him, come back, and pivot with your left, hook him to the body, and hook him right back to the head, then stiff him back with that right hand. Now, can you remember all that?
No.
That's too bad.
Yes, it's all too bad, because as bad as some parts of the movie are, you can't help but like at least some of it. I felt as if the filmmakers were sincere in what they were trying to do and accomplish. We've all seen and heard the cliches, but here they have a certain flair. You could almost say style, almost. Tough Enough is also predictable. We know what is going to happen to Quaid. After winning the Fort Worth competition, Quaid goes on to the finals in Detroit, thanks to Warren Oates' persuasion. Oates plays the fight promoter who, although admits to exploiting people for a living, he's got a good streak in him, and he's an old softy at heart. He even tells Quaid right before his big final bout with his opponent, who looks like he'd make Mr. T shake in his boots, that he should quit. But Dennis can't. He can't do it. And, well, we've all heard this routine before. All the main characters are nice in the film. Quaid shows that he's got some acting ability, and Charlene Watkins, as his wife, is believable. Stan Shaw is also believable, and Warren Oates is very effective as the gruff but likable promoter. On my rating scale, Tough Enough swings up to a 5. I almost gave it a 4, but I'm pushing it a notch. Most of the characters, the cliches, all the things we've seen before, all come together and are palatable. We can at least see the good effort on the part of the filmmakers. There are some funny one-liners, but other portions of the film don't quite work. The fight scenes are at times brutal, and they're not believable either. But Tough Enough appears tough enough to handle all the problems, and that effort makes it worthwhile. I'm Dino Lolly. You play the character Pony Boy
Yes.
in The Outsiders. Describe him for us.
Well, basically Pony Boy is a loner, and I believe he's self-conscious, he likes to read books, and he's basically an all-around good kid. He just hangs around with the wrong group of guys, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Do you identify with your character in the film whatsoever? Are there some similarities in there?
Well, basically, well, yes and no. I liked he's very choosy about like I said, he's a loner, and I'm basically a loner. I've never had a lot of friends at once. I've always had one very good friend that I palled around with, and that's basically what Ponyboy does. I mean, there's a group of kids, but he has one friend. Johnny is his one friend that he hangs out with. And in that sort of way, I guess so.
Describe briefly for us the synopsis of The Outsiders. What does the movie try to get across to the audience?
Well, basically, I think it tries to make the point that it doesn't matter if you're rich or poor, you're still a human. And it's youth-orientated. It's about growing up in the 1960s and how rough it is on the east and south side, or on the north and south side, or east and west side.
There are two separate groups of people in the film.
Right, the greasers and the socias. And we are the greasers, okay.
Was it fun playing that type of role?
Oh yeah, it was exciting because it was like a challenge, you know. You read the script and it was like, can I do it? Well, let's find out, and you dive in.
If I see you in school and I don't say hi, please don't take it personal, okay?
Yeah, I know.
Really, you're a nice boy and everything.
It's okay.
How was it working with Coppola?
Oh, it was great. He's wonderful. We have like a father-son relationship. I go and see him in San Francisco all the time.
What did you learn from this movie?
I learned how to express myself in very little words. I learned that the Outsiders group is a good bunch of people. I mean, there's never going to be another cast like it, if you ask me. And I learned that Francis Coppola is a very brilliant man.
Tomorrow on Action 4, I'll be talking with Patrick Swayze. He portrays Tommy Howell's older brother in the film The Outsiders. I'm Dino Lawley.